Our topic for our presentation is quick sets and automation, how we can work with quick sets in the many different ways and what quick sets are in general. So I'm going to start out going into my RipQ software. And when we think about what a quick set is and we begin, we need to have some type of way or settings or controls for how we are going to rip a file, what will be applied, what settings. And so when we go into open in the RipQ here, we have the open button. We can select the file that we want to work with. And over on the right side, you'll notice quick sets. Now I'm starting out fresh and I just have a default quick set. As a brand new installation, there will always be a default quick set. So in other words, there has to be a way to rip the file. There must be some settings and controls to be applied. So right now we just have default. This quick set information is a preset of some very good common starting point settings. Things that are not active in the quick sets are going to be the abundance of features that you might customize in your own quick sets to meet your needs. For example, if you tile your job files, you might want to have a quick set for tiling. If you work with bleed and grommets and sewing marks, you might have a quick set in that fashion. If you have a need to scale repeatedly at a certain size, we can go through and set that up as a quick set. So right now we just have a basic default quick set. I'm going to deselect the open in job editor for now and just bring my file into main RipQ. Now, as my file rips and is ready to go, this file has been processed with the default quick set. So let's take a look at what the default quick set settings are. I'm going to go up into Edit Quick Set and Default Edit. Edit Quick Set is a very convenient way to edit an existing quick set without having to put your system offline, if you will. We're going to take a look at going into Configure Printer and creating our own quick sets from scratch. And in that case, we will be going offline. So as I go into this Edit Quick Set for the default, I can see that I've just got some basic settings here. Basic settings to get the media and page size from the printer. So a typical workflow could be as you go through and you are setting up the conditions and saying, okay, I want to load this certain material. What you're able to do at this point is load the material and then have the quick set use that material that's loaded. Now, one point I want to raise here is the mode. In some cases, your printer's media profile will consist of different mode choices. And this is where we select the mode. And you might look at this and say, well, I'm really working with a normal quality or a draft quality, but you're able to select the condition here as far as the mode is set. Other controls we have on the right side is for sizing or scaling, number of copies, rotation based on our 4 standard angle rotation, degree angled rotations. We could mirror, set, if we're working with a multi-page PDF, we can set that up to submit those individual pages as individual jobs. So it'll break them apart. That multi-page PDF will come in as independent pages. On the left-hand side, we've got some color management settings in here, as well as our spot color replacement table is activated. We see some cutting options in here, and we will be reviewing another session today that's going to be going over for cut information. So we'll be taking a look at that as well. Actually, for tomorrow, my apologies. For tomorrow, we'll be taking a look at the cut information. But these are the cut attribute settings we have in the quick set. And then we can also see additional controls in the lower left advanced menu. And in this advanced section, we may see some additional choices in the main page. And they're gonna be working in fashion together. So here's where I can activate my tiling setup and my tiling controls. Here's where I can set up my bleed and my bleed controls and my bleed type and my grommets and any type of marks, sewing marks or registration marks. So we do have quite a bit of control in here within this advanced button within the quick set. So I just wanted to point out the default quick set as a basic workflow there of what we have. Now, we're going to start out with going into the main command, configure printer. When we go to configure printer, this is going to prompt us that we're going to go offline. So at this point, we're going to say, yes, I am not ripping or printing. So that's the message is saying it's going to stop any of that. I'm at a point where I'm not ripping and I'm not printing, so I can say yes and go offline. And what that does when we go into this configure printer command is it puts our printers from a green circle, green active printer to a red offline. And we can see that indication in the upper left corner. Now, this configure printer has many tabs for many features. We're going to talk about this quick set tab. If I want to create a quick set that had some very simple information in there, I can go into quick set, I can go to new, and maybe I want this to be very basic, a rotate 90. Now I would name this quick set the proper name to describe that action, rotate 90. And now I've created my first quick set. So yes, in this command, in this setting, I can go in and make new quick sets and control my tile setup, bleed information, grommet, mark placements, sewing marks, scale factors, putter information, all types of things of how I want my files to have features applied during the ripping process. And these are going to be very quick and shortcuts because this information is going to come in and it's going to be a very fast bit of information to apply to the data and automate our steps. So yes, I can come in here and make these different quick sets up and configure and control these settings. I'll make one also for tiling. I'm just going to call this tiling on. I will go to the advanced button in the lower left corner of this menu. And then here's my tile setup control. So I'll go into my tile setup and I'll activate tiling. And we do have a lot of different controls in here for the tile setup. We can submit each individual tile as its own individual job if we check this feature on. If we needed to set a custom width or height, we can do that here. That is something that we'd be able to adjust for and set. We can also set an overlap amount. And even if we do put in an overlap amount, let's say I put in a 1/2 inch, the weld overlap option does become available. Weld overlap will make a portion of that overlapping image area from tile panel to tile panel non-printing. So a portion of that overlap will be just media and no image area. So maybe I say I want to have a 1 inch overlap and I do want to have a weld overlap. So again, a portion of that image overlapping for lineup will be a non-imaging area. And that could be if you're having some type of restrictions where putting the two media tile panels overlapping and lining them up and then adhering them or heat welding them, somewhere to the effect where the ink on the media is interfering with that process of being adhesive or adhering, we can make this weld overlap active, which will make a portion of that non-printing, and therefore it's media to media, and that could help us in the cases where the ink is causing some type of area where it won't want to stick too well. Okay, so that's just the optional settings. Now in the tile setup, we also have marks, tile marks, and again, we can activate the different mark settings as we want them to be. And then our third feature we have is tile maps. So one configuration and setting we're going to have is we're able to generate a tile map at the rip time when the file is ripped. It'll be a PDF file that's going to show us all of the tile panels. It's going to give us our dimensions and the information that's going to be for each tile panel. So we're going to take a look at this, and I'll show you what this is in more detail as we run through this job. I'm going to add pages for each tile. I want every tile panel to have its own page in this PDF tile map. I've got my page size, letter A4, portrait or landscape, and one more additional area. In the PDF tile maps, it's going to add an Onyx logo. We've heard some feedback from our clients, customers, and they're saying, well, I'd rather not have the Onyx logo, so we can say none. Or I'd like to substitute my own company logo. We can do custom, and then we can browse for that logo. So this can become very handy. I'm going to leave the Onyx logo on for this example. You can see what that looks like. So this can be a very simple tile setup. We've got these different control areas to set. I'll click OK, and now I've made that quick set. So I've got my default quick set. I've got my rotate 90 and my tiling settings on. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And after creating these quick sets, let's take a look at using these quick sets. So something very simple, I'm going to open back in that fruit image. And in this case, I'll pick my quick set for rotate 90. You'll notice here, we also can have a rotation in the main menu of bringing in our files, and it is going to 90 when I use that quick set. And for just simplicity, I'm going to go with this, and I'll hit open. So my file is going to come into the RIP. It's going to be rotated 90 degrees, as you can see, and I have that set. Now, over on the right in my placement strategies, you may notice that I've got this information and it's showing me that they're straight up. And the situation here is I'm using conserve media in my placement strategies. I do have in the options tab, best fit, allow, rotate. So this command is actually optimizing my media to be the most efficient, even though I rotate the 90 degrees, because I have this set, it's going to control those conditions and get the most out of my media. If I select a different category, for example, group jobs together for my placement strategy, this will obey to the queue order, what's first, what's second, and so on. And it also will not auto rotate. So group jobs together will honor the RIP queue jobs ready to print order, as well as not applying any type of further rotation to optimize or conserve media. Again, just depending on what your needs are, we have all these different placement strategies that will best suit your needs. But we can see that quick set is being applied. So let's take a look at working with the other quick set, the tile information. I've got a file that is much larger, and I'll call that up. This example, I'm going to open in Job Editor, and I'm going to select my proper quick set, tiling on. So I've got a roll size of a 36 roll, which has a 35.76 imageable area. And then my file coming in is a 74-inch file. So I'm going to use the appropriate quick set to engage in tiling, and I'm going to open this up in Job Editor. So the file will come into the RIP and then immediately launch into Job Editor. So now I can see my tile panels with these dotted lines. I can go into my tiling tab, and here in my tiling tab, I could see my individual columns. So as we look at these, I have 1, 2, and 3 columns, and this is all one row. So now, if I said, well, I don't like the way this one line is cutting where the X is in Onyx, it might be kind of tricky for the installation team to set up. I can move this if I want to. I can click on that line and get a bidirectional arrow and move this. I can also further say, well, I don't like this small piece that's here, which is so many inches, very tiny strip for them to work with in tiling. And so I might decide I want to adjust these columns and have a different spacing. So a couple of different things we can do in Job Editor for the tiling is we can type in our dimensions for what we want this to be. So I'm in column 2. I can go to column 1, column 3, and I can set this up. So 3 is actually 5.72 inches. So yes, I can click and drag and move these positions over and roughly get my 3 panels, or I could do math and calculate and type in my values. But an even faster way would be looking at this and saying, I know I'm going to need 3 columns at least, right? So then I've got to say columns, and I could tell this to evenly divide by 3. So up at the top, number of tiles, this is our area where we can set an even amount of tiles or rows, and the software will calculate that out to be equal. Once we do that, it's always good to evaluate the subject matter. And maybe I look at this and I say, well, the very end of this petal from the sunflower and down here might be a little tricky for the installation team. And so I might decide to still manually move over a little bit to be out of that area. And again, these are all visual based on what your subject matter is. So now I've got my 3 tile panels. I'm very happy with this result. This was using the Kwikset. The Kwikset had a 1-inch overlap, which you can see down here, with a weld overlap activated. And now I can go to my marks tab, and if I had to modify or select any types of mark information, again, this is calling up from my Kwikset. There's my PDF tile maps that's going to be created when I come back into the RIP. And I can take a look at this information. The location of this PDF tile map that will be created, it's going to default into the RIP folder. And then there's going to be a folder called Tile Maps, and that's where it's going to be written to. In the Kwikset and here, the 3 dots on this button would allow us to search for a different location. So we're always able to browse and have a different bit of information. I'm going to leave it in this default directory for our demonstration purposes. And at this point, I'm just going to work with this and I'm going to submit. So I'll go up to Submit in Job Editor. That's the 4th icon across the top. Or I could go to the Print tab and then Submit. Now the file will leave the Job Editor program, return to the RIP, and RIP this file. In this particular case, I had this set for 1 tile panel to be made up now in 3 tile slices, 3 even slices, give or take. I did move that one a little bit. And as a composite file, we see this here as a composite file, but over on the right, we do see the tile panels 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Now, about that PDF tile map, I'm going to go to my RIP folder, and I'll have a folder here called Tile Maps. That was my default directory. Inside there, I have my PDF tile map. So it's going to take the name of the file, _ tile map, and this is a PDF file. From here, I'll double click that and view to show you what the PDF tile maps are. So when we look at our PDF tile map, it's going to give me an overview. It's going to give me the job name, the overall size, how many tiles I'm working with, and if I am using an overlap, what the amount is. I can clearly see column 1, column 2, and column 3, all on row 1. And in the lower left corner, this is that Onyx logo I mentioned. So remember, in the Kwikset, we can leave it as the Onyx logo. We can say none, or we can browse and put our own logo there. And we'll be showing you that actually in our next session later on today. We're going to take a look at looking at PDF tile maps, and we're going to take a look at this in a little more detail. Now these pages, of course, if I scroll through my second page, I get all the information for the sizing of each of those columns. And then I can see each column with their overlap area, and then the weld overlap area will show as non-imageable. So I can scroll through this. Now, this purpose of this PDF tile map is, this is a representation of how the tile panels are, how many they are. There's a visual of the art of the file. And so we can email this to the installation team, and this could be something that they can reference as they are on site and about to install the tile components. At any time in this PDF tile map, I want to go back to the main page. I can click up here on the job name. You can see I get a little hand finger. I can click and go back to page 1. If I want to quickly go to column 2, I can simply click on column 2 and it puts me in that location. So you're able to navigate fairly quickly here through going back to the main page or going to a specific tile panel, whether it's a column or a row within the file. So again, this information could be emailed to the installation team and they can have that for reference and visual. Okay. So just a few examples with working with the quick sets. Now, one more scenario, we may have a need to add bleed or grommets or some type of effect in Job Editor. And we want to visualize this. We want to see what the dimensions are going to be and how things are looking. So if I open a file, go down to my settings here and pick this file. I'll make sure I go to my default quick set. So you'll notice, and remember the last quick set we used, it's for convenience, but of course we want to make sure we select what we truly want to work with. So I'll go back to default. And for this file, I will open up in Job Editor. So this might be something where I want to have bleed all around, top, bottom, left, and right. And then maybe I want to put in some grommet marks, some type of finishing effects. So I'm going to go into my finishing tab. And first I will enable my bleed, image bleed, and I'll set the amount. And I'll put this as a 1-inch top, bottom, left, and right bleed. Now this can be distinguished to be different values. If I break this link, I can put in top and bottom 1 inch and left and right 0. If I didn't want that to be bleeding as well, you can put in independent values when we break that link. The bleed type is going to be controlled here. This is a mirror image, but I can also select duplication, where it takes the very edge pixel and duplicates it out. Or I can select color, and our color settings are here. Defaults to white. I can say first pixel, which will be the upper left corner of the image. Or I can say custom and type in my own recipe. Or if I use the eyedropper, I can select the eyedropper and pick a color in my subject matter. Select the eyedropper and pick a color. So you can see we've got some versatility to how we want to select this part of this area. I'm going to go back to a mirror image and mirror my image in that bleed. Now, maybe I want to create this where it's going to be printed and then wrapped around a frame, top, bottom, left, right, 1-inch image bleed, mirror image bleed. But then I want a little additional space beyond the bleed that's nothing more than just extra media, nothing to print. That is our trim box. So if I set this up for a 1-inch trim box, and again, top, bottom, left, right, we can break the link for different values. I now see that beyond my image bleed is just the trim box. The trim box will always be non-printing and it'll always be beyond that image area. So if we imagine wrapping this around a frame, we can have this white area perhaps be the back side of that frame wrap that's going to go up against the wall, for example. And we don't really need any color printing there. No one's going to see that as it's backed up against the wall. We also have some additional marks that we can activate for top, bottom, left, and right. Or we also have some commonly used marks, corner marks, as one example is a banner, and the other example is a frame. So whichever types of mark styles, or you can have everything turned on, but whichever types of mark styles work best for you. And the mark attributes are here where it says bleed marks, and there's a gear for configuration, and we can have a solid line, black or white, and you have a variation of pixel thicknesses. You could have a dotted line, black or white, and again, variations of pixels, and you could set the line length and the gap. And then alternative is a bit of both. It's black and then non-printing, which looks like white. So it appears black, white, black, white. For some areas, a dark mark would help. Other areas, a light mark would help. This suits both needs. Now, let's say I created this as I am in Job Editor, and I look at this and I say, that would make a perfect quick set. Well, I can write down some notes and say, I want to work with the 1-inch mirror image bleed and a 1-inch trim, and I want to use my particular corner mark as a frame style, and it's alternative. And I could jot all this down or record this somehow and go back into my quick sets. And I could put all this information in manually in my quick sets and customize this for this type of a wrap. But another feature we have in Job Editor that's going to expedite that process would be going into File, Export as QuickSet. And when I make that selection, I'm going to see the options and the settings for additional settings that I see on this page. Do I also want to get the median page size from printer? Do I want to put the job on hold? Do I want to rotate or scale? So some basic things as additional options. Okay, no thank you. I'm just going to save what I have. And now I'm going to name this something that's going to be describing this 1-inch mirror image wrap or something. And then where am I going to save it? Well, for my demo purposes, I have a folder in my samples folder called Exported Quick Sets, and that's where I'm going to put my file. So I'll give this a name. It's going to be better explaining what this is. And I might say mirror bleed 1-inch. I'll save that out. And now this job is completed. I'll submit this back to the RIP. Now my file is going to RIP with those settings applied. And that was me doing this manually in the Job Editor feature. So if I said, well, now I want to bring that exported QuickSet into my main QuickSet menu so that I can use it time and time again, I'm going to go into Configure Printer, and I'm going to import. And I'll browse to my directory, and I'll go to my samples folder. And here's the folder I have, Exported QuickSets, and I'll bring in that image mirror, 1-inch image mirror area. So I'll set that up, and now I've got that here. So just to show you, this is the QuickSet. Edit. In the Advanced button, I've got my bleed settings right here. All my conditions came in. So for convenience sake, I could be in Job Editor, working through my files, saying to myself again that this looks like this could be a very good quick set, and I could export out as a quick set. And while I'm in this quick sets menu, I want to point out that once you create the quick sets that you need, that are going to perform tasks and automate your steps for you, keep you consistent and save you time, you can always back these up, export. So we can always export these out and save these as exported QuickSet information. It's backing up your QuickSet data. So in time, if you needed to, you can migrate to a new computer, install your RIP software, and import these quick sets. Okay, so now I've got default mirror image with my 1-inch mirror image bleed. I've got my rotate 90, and I've got my tiling. So I've got a couple of different quick sets created here. Again, using them here in the RIP is very simple. When we go to open, we can select our particular file and choose that quick set. We could still go into Job Editor to preview it larger, or possibly not. We know this is a bona fide working quick set to our settings, and we can just send that information over. Okay, so as you can see, quick sets are going to save us time, automate our process, and keep us consistent. I keep going in and using whichever quick set I need to use. I'm being very efficient by making these selections and choosing a preset. Quick sets are printer based. So all of the different printers you have with the different types of media and purpose you print on, you'll have quick sets specific for those printers. So again, you may have a printer where you do the canvas media and you do those bleed and wrap files. Another printer you use exclusively, it's a large material, and you use that exclusively for tiling. So you might have very specific needs with very specific printers, and therefore each printer will have their own set of quick sets as it applies. Now, one more step here about automation. I'm going to go ahead and just print this cue. All of those quick sets we created will automatically create a hot folder. So remember, I'm going to go to Edit Quick Sets. That does not stop my processing or put me offline. Here I can see I've got my default quick set, my mirror bleed 1-inch, rotate 90, and tiling. I've got a few quick sets here. In my folder structure of my RIP, if I go into my RIP process here, I'm able to see these settings in here. And if I go into this choice, oops, sorry, let me go back into my screen. Okay, if I go back into my main RIP, we have a folder called Input. Inside Input, there's our printer, and inside our printer are our hot folders. So as soon as we make a quick set, a hot folder is generated. If I delete a quick set, the hot folder is deleted. So this information is working together, okay? This is all internal and works together. So if I wanted to apply a setting to maybe the rotate 90, I could simply take one of my files and I could drag and drop that over to my rotate 90. And then if I return to my RIP, the file is coming in. You can see the rotate 90 being applied, and now it's ready to print. Concept behind this hot folder would be that you could share these folders across your network. And again, this might be something that you work with your IT at your companies to set this up and configure this. But you can share your hot folders across the network and then have someone drag and drop their files to the appropriate hot folder, which is the appropriate quick set. And it's going to come into the RIP as if we said open, use the rotate 90 or the tiling or the mirror bleed, use this quick set attribute. But instead of going into open at the RIP queue, I've got my desktop team or some other team of people that are taking the pre-prepped files, the pre-flighted files, and sending them over directly to the appropriate hot folder quick set for that printer model. So this can become very convenient in our workflows. So again, I could just take my file, drag that information over, put that in the hot folder, return to my RIP, and I'll see the file is coming in, ripping, and this has those attributes set for the quick set. So quick sets create hot folders, and hot folders could be shared across your network. And then as a shortcut on your desktop, this is something that some other team of people could be sending files over appropriately to the printer to the right quick set. If we look inside one of these particular hot folders, you're going to see there is an info folder, and it's basically the instructions of that particular hot folder or quick set. It's the instructions. So when we want to drag and drop our files, we just want to drag and drop them into the very top level of that first folder level, if you will. So for something like my tile job, I would double click my tiling on folder, and at this level is where I would drag and drop my tile file. So I can just do that here, and then file comes into the hot folder or quick set, right? And the hot folder here brings that information in and starts to rip that. This has been set with tiling on, so I will have all of my different tile panels for this. Should be 2 tile panels, so let's see, 2 or 3. Let's see what we get here for processing. So that's going to help automate your process. I mean, you can just go into open at the RIP. There's still a good sense of automation here, making our selections for our quick set, using our quick set, picking a particular file, whether we go into job editor or not, still can be, your choice or options. Opening in job editor could be very helpful for us to see what's going on. Oh yeah, that's the file, there it is, it's rotated 90, right? And then we just submit. Okay, now it's going to come back into the RIP. This time it rips the file and is generating that data. So again, the convenience factor, quick sets are there to help customize your commonly used settings that you would be engaging in possibly manually in job editor. This is going to automate that process, but keep you consistent. And both of those things are going to save you time.